Welcome, foolish mortals. I'm your host, 1000th Ghost, and I'm going to do a quick overview of episode 15 of The Mandalorian called The Believer. This episode is not as short as the others, it's about 38 minutes, still really good, it's packed with lots of information, and really begins questioning the Imperial, Remnant, First Order, New Republic quandary of which is actually better, and does any of it make your life better. Um, this episode starts with the fallout from the last, which is where Grogu was kidnapped by Moff Gideon and the Dark Troopers. They have decided that they need to get Bill Barr's character, can't remember his name, Migs Mayfeld, and he can get into the Imperial base, steal the information on where the ship is that Moff Gideon's on, and then they'll go from there. They go to what looks like a reclaimer planet, um, where they're basically junking old Imperial weaponry and ships, and pick Mayfeld up. Cara Dune goes with the Mandalorian and Boba Fett, complete with new armor, all repainted. Looks beautiful. Can't wait for the new Black Series figure of him from The Mandalorian. A lot of people were giving him crap about having gained weight in the past, 20 years since we last saw him. But, they can shove it. People gain weight. It happens. Here I am. But he looks really great in the Boba Fett armor. Slave 1 is cool. We finally see some more bits of the interior of Slave 1 and how it functions when it turns to fly and things like that. Really cool stuff. Of course, the effects are great as always. This turns into kind of a Dirty Dozen type episode where they need Mayfeld to get the information, but to get the information, they need to get inside the base. But they can't get inside the base because they need people who, if scanned by Imperial equipment, won't show up, which are not Fennec and Cara, because they are both known to the Empire. As is Mayfeld, who, as far as we can tell, may or may not have went AWOL after a particularly bad mission that he was sent on. More about that later. So the Mandalorian and Mayfeld decide to go, but to go, they can't, of course, walk around with a Mandalorian. So they take over a supply vessel that's taken rubidium to a processing plant, which, of course, like every other thing in the Star Wars universe, all of a sudden, it's incredibly explosive if it bumps around too much or if it gets too hot, much like the fuel from Solo. So they take their driver's armors, which is another new uh, Imperial outfit, which I don't know why everybody has to have different outfits. Armies don't have outfits for every single person. You're an AT-AT driver now, so you have this outfit. Tomorrow you're going to be an ATST driver, so you have this outfit. But it's very toyetic, and it makes new 6-inch figures that everybody has to buy. So they get on, and Mayfeld, what I like about him is they seem to have worked some of Bill Barr's personality into his character. He does really seem like a person who doesn't like silence, who always needs to be talking. If you watch him in stand up and stuff, anytime the audience goes quiet, you can see a slight bit of panic in him, and then he turns it around and makes it hilarious. But Mayfeld does not want to just sit and drive, which is what the Mandalorian wants to do. Mayfeld wants to talk, and Mayfeld talks about what's the difference between wearing Mandalorian armor or wearing that outfit. So is it you always have to wear a mask, or you can't take the mask off, or you just can't show your face? And it's one of the philosophical questions this episode asks. But as they're going along, they're attacked by some pirates, and we're not really sure if these are pirates trying to steal the stuff or just blowing things up for the sake of blowing stuff up, because that's all they seem to do. We're not sure if there's some sort of rebel group on this planet that is trying to fight the Empire, um, but they blow several of these large transports up. The Mandalorian, of course, handles them all relatively quickly, although it is a little more of a struggle now that he doesn't have his armor. He's very careful about how he takes hits and stuff like that from staffs and people. But they eventually get to the base where the Imperials welcome them with open arms because, of course, they're one of the first transports to get through on that day, where they run into an old commander of um, uh, Mayfield's, um, and he hates this guy. His name was Valin Hess, and he was basically um, I don't know. You could probably compare him to some of the generals in World War One that just threw people at battles and didn't care who died, civilian, whatever, and then ordered a strike on his own people and a city in order to win the battle. And it looks like Migs is one of the only people who survived that battle. But this Valin Hess is what the episode's named after, the Believer. And he is a die-hard Imperial officer. He is so for the Imperials, and everything they do is okay. Everything, is a means to an end and just has to be done. So it has to be done. In the end, Migs, of course, doesn't like it and ends up shooting him. And they have to blast their way out. And Boba Fett and Finn and Cara come rescue them. And they escape. And Migs takes out and shoots one of the transports and blows it up and does a lot of damage and says now he can sleep maybe tonight. But it was a very interesting episode about, who's good, who's bad, whose side are you on? Are you on your own side? And that's Migs' thing. He's on his side for the most part. He knows from the conversation he has with Mando, he knows he did Mando wrong in the last time they met him. But he's not going to tell him that because that's who he is now. And Mando sees a little bit of why he's the way he is because of Van Hess and how he treated him as an Imperial. So it's an interesting story, but it ends with a very Taken moment. Moff Gideon is on his destroyer. He has the child, and an Imperial officer comes up and says, "Here's a message for you, sir." And it's a hologram of the Mandalorian, who gives kind of a Taken speech about, you don't know what you have. You think you do, but you don't. That he means more to me than anything. And it was basically, I'll see you soon type of message. Now, I can't remember now if there's 1 or 2 episodes left of this. If there's only 1 episode left. It better be an hour long because there's a lot of stuff to wrap up in this. But again, Boba Fett looked great in his new stuff. Slave 1 looks wonderful. The effects are great. The story was wonderful. A really good episode this week, and can't wait for next week. Talk to you guys later.